What up, you two boxing fans? It's your boy Av, and I want to do an analysis today on. Gennady Golovkin, and I want to talk about the prospects that Gennady Golovkin has, and what strategy him and Tom Loeffler should employ at this point, because the middleweight situation is looking very bleak for them. Nobody wants to fight them. We got Billy Joe Saunders holding the WBO belt hostage. We got Canelo fighting welterweights, and it's not looking like he's gonna fight Gennady Golovkin in September. He might, though. I could be wrong. I hope Canelo mans up and makes that fight happen, and he might. But right now, the way I see it, I don't see the Canelo Triple G fight happening, and the reason I don't is because of Canelo's choice of opponent for May. I had told my brother this once. I said, if Canelo picks somebody like Gabriel Rosado or Willie Monroe Jr. or somebody at middleweight, like a legitimate middleweight, I told my brother, I said, okay, then he's really like getting ready for Gennady. He's getting a taste of like middleweight power, and or if he fought Lemieux or somebody, I would have been like, oh man, he's serious about fighting Gennady. Like, this is going to happen. But the fact that he chose to fight a big name guy like Khan, who's a 147 pounder, who, don't get me wrong, he's a big name. It's a big pay-per-view. There's a lot of money on the table for that fight. But the thing is that it doesn't prepare you for Golovkin. It doesn't prepare you for, being on top of the middleweight division. Fighting a guy like Khan doesn't prepare you for a fight with Golovkin. So for me, when he elected to pick Khan, I said, oh wow, I don't think this guy has any interest in fighting Golovkin, because at least he would want to put himself in there with a middleweight and see how he could do. But that's not the case. So my point being is that I don't see Gennady Golovkin and Canelo fighting in September. I don't see it happening. I hope it does, but I don't see it happening. And to tell you the truth, I don't see Canelo getting stripped either. He's going to get another voluntary and another voluntary after that. Canelo could do anything he wants to do. The WBC will let him do anything he wants. I don't see them stripping Canelo. I'm sure you guys agree. I just don't see them stripping him. I think Gennady Golovkin's just going to have to wait longer. So this is bad, and like, the situation is getting outrageous, because even Gennady Golovkin's mandatory, like for example, Toriano Johnson. Toriano Johnson, he's a mandatory challenger, and he's earned that right, and I've seen a couple of his fights. But he's not a name. Nobody knows about him. Nobody cares about him. The only thing that people know about Toriano Johnson is once upon a time he was Triple G's mandatory. So I found it really crazy that a no-name guy like Toriano Johnson would pull out of a fight with Triple G. Like, that's crazy. When your mandatories are pulling out of matches with you, that's bad. So Toriano Johnson pulled out, and now they're talking about this guy Dominic Wade, who Gennady Golovkin's going to destroy him. He's going to splatter this guy, and I'm cool with it. I don't care, but I'm a Gennady Golovkin fan, and I personally would like to see better guys in the ring with him. We all would. The problem is these guys are scared. They don't want to fight him. It's simple as that. And I hear 78 Sports TV and all these other bird-ass channels, saying things like, why don't Gennady, you offered Billy Joe Saunders all this money, why don't you offer Danny Jacobs money and this and that, and why don't you get him in the ring? Well, I'd like to see Danny Jacobs versus Gennady Golovkin. Everyone would like to see that happen, but the reality is that Danny Jacobs doesn't bring anything to the table. He doesn't even have a title. He has some WBA regular trinket belt. Gennady Golovkin's the WBA super champion. So he doesn't even bring a belt to the table. So why is Gennady Golovkin gonna pay this dude $3, $4, $5 million, and he's not even bringing the belt. Like, for what? What's the difference between him and Dominic Wade? Who gives a damn? And don't get me wrong. I'd rather see Danny Jacobs versus Dominic Wade. I'm not trying to say that. It's a better fight. What I'm trying to say is, why should he pay this guy outrageous sums of money when he's not even coming to the table with any belt? See, Billy Joe Saunders ain't worth that money. Gennady Golovkin is trying to unify the division. So that's the whole reason why Billy Joe Saunders got such a massive offer, is because he has something Gennady wants. That's the difference. Danny Jacobs doesn't have anything Gennady wants. He doesn't. And what's really like alarming about the Danny Jacobs situation that 78 Sports mentioned, it's the fact that Danny Jacobs is the WBA regular champion, and if he wanted a Triple G fight, if he was serious about that fight, he could force that fight to happen. He could tell the WBA, like, I want to fight for the super belt. I'm the regular champion. I want a shot at that super title, and he could force that fight. So if Danny Jacobs really wanted to fight Gennady Golovkin, it could happen. No problem. No problem. So my whole thing is that Danny Jacobs has no intention of fighting Gennady Golovkin. Okay? So that fight wouldn't even happen. First and foremost, I don't think it would happen. What, like, I don't understand. Like, I'm tired of, all these bird channels. Like, they're always, talking about these call-outs. Like, oh, Lara called out Triple G. Oh, Danny Jacobs said this and that. It's like, yo, those guys are signed with Al Heyman. The likelihood of those fights happening is slim to zero. So why are you guys always talking about this crap? Like, this is how I feel. When Al Heyman calls out a non-Al Heyman fighter, I just laugh. It's like a joke to me, because that fight's not going to be made, and the loser that's making the call out knows it's not going to be made. So like, Lara will get washed up by Triple G. He won't even go 5 rounds with Triple G. Angulo beat him half to death. You know what I'm saying? Like, Lara's a joke. Like Lara's nobody in boxing. He doesn't even have a name. Like, nobody cares about Lara. The only people who talk about Lara are Triple G haters who try to say that Lara could beat Triple G only because they know the fight can't happen. If that fight was signed tomorrow, all of them would be like, this is going to be a good fight, but I think Triple G is going to be too big for him. Like, you're all going to say that. Every one of you guys who call in for this Lara fight, it's a joke. You guys are full of crap. Like, the fight's not going to be made. Lara's pricing himself out. Lara's not even worth $500,000. You know what I'm saying? Like, Al Heyman's paying him those big purses because that's that Waddell and Reed money. That ain't Al Heyman's money, so he don't care if Lara only sold 200 tickets. He don't give a damn. You know what I'm saying? So that's why he's paying him these big purses. That's not even his money. You know what I'm saying? So my point is, Lara's not even a middleweight, and no one cares. No one even wants that fight. You guys are just calling for that fight as a way of saying Gennady Golovkin could lose to somebody. He ain't losing to no Lara. He'll destroy Lara. He'll blow through Lara easier than he did Stevens or Monroe Jr. Those guys will beat the shit out of Lara. Lara's not even a middleweight. Like, he'll get completely washed up by Triple G. So that fight's not even... I'd like to see that fight. I wish that fight happened, honestly. I really do. Just to shut you losers up. And I'd love to see Lara get washed up. I just don't think he's that good anyway. He's completely hype. A hype job. Anyway, this is the bad situation Triple G has found himself in. So what's the plan? What should be the strategy that Triple G and his team need to employ? Well, this is what they need to do. Okay? It doesn't look like he's going to be able to unify the division. It's going to take him at least 3 years. At least 3 years to unify. And in the meantime, there's a couple of things Triple G could do to keep himself on top of the sport and to become the face of boxing, which he still can be. Just because his pay-per-view did 150,000 views doesn't mean that he's climbing the mountain to be the best and the face of boxing, because he can be. Because he can be. Canelo and Cotto did 900,000 buys, but that's Cotto and Canelo together. If, like, for example, we know Canelo's pay-per-view numbers when he fights. When he fought Angulo, his pay-per-view numbers were like 400,000, 350,000 buys. And we know Cotto's pay-per-view numbers when he fights a no-name guy. It's also about 400-something thousand, 300-something thousand. So you could divide that 900 in half. The 900,000 pay-per-view buys, you could divide that in half between Cotto and Canelo, and that's 450,000 buys each guy's name is bringing to the table. So Canelo did 150. If you so 150,000 buys ain't that bad when you're looking at 400-something thousand. And a news flash to Oscar, because he's making this big fight with Khan, and it's going to be huge, and it's going to do huge numbers. But Khan's got a name, and he's bringing numbers to the table. Like I said, put Canelo against a guy named like Willie Monroe Jr. and look at his pay-per-view numbers. Then it's going to be low. It's going to be like 400,000. That's what Canelo's really bringing to the table. It's like 450,000 diehards that watch him no matter who he fights. Then if he fights a big name, he can go up to like 1 million. You know what I'm saying? So going back, Gennady Golovkin's strategy at this point should be two-pronged. Okay? Gennady Golovkin, one thing that he could accomplish in the middleweight division, and it could set him up to be one of the all-time greats in the middleweight division. So Gennady Golovkin is on the verge of breaking Bernard Hopkins' record at middleweight for most title defenses. I think the record stands at 25 title defenses by Bernard Hopkins, and I think Gennady Golovkin's got 20. I'm not sure. I think he's got 20 title defenses. I gotta look it up. 19 or 20. So his goal should just be to break Bernard Hopkins' record, defeat his mandatories, and he should be looking for super fights at 168 in between fighting his mandatories at 160. For example, this fight with DeGale, Tom Loeffler needs to jump on that train as soon as possible. He should have a super fight with DeGale at 168 in England. You know what I'm saying? In England, go to his backyard, have a super fight at 168. That fight, Gennady has to take that fight. That fight is so beautiful. When I heard that they were thinking about that fight, I was so happy. I was like, oh my God, that's such a perfect fight for Gennady Golovkin. Because, don't get me wrong, DeGale is the best at 168. But DeGale has he has a certain style, and he has certain flaws that I think Gennady Golovkin would exploit. Like the fact that DeGale likes to switch from southpaw to orthodox. And he does it in the middle of combinations. Like, he'll throw a combination right in front of somebody, and he'll completely square up, very off balance. Gennady Golovkin will chin check this dude and lay his ass out. It's a perfect fight for Gennady Golovkin, and a fight like that would put Gennady Golovkin pound for pound status, like number 1 or 2, because it'd be like, oh, you just destroyed the guy at 168. You know what I mean? And it's a fight that Tom Loeffler needs to take care of business at this point. Like, he really needs to do what needs to be done. At this point, if Gennady Golovkin doesn't start getting like good fights, you could put blame on Tom Loeffler, because, the thing is, I know that he can't get fights at middleweight right now. Everyone's ducking him, but he should keep his belts at middleweight, fight his mandatories, try to get that Canelo fight until Canelo vacates or eventually fights him. And he should continue to try to put pressure on to fight Billy Joe Saunders, right? But in the meantime, he needs to get some super fights in there. He just has to. He needs to do what he has to do to make big money and keep his name very relevant. Fighting guys like Dominic Wade is I mean, I know you got to fight your Mandos, but it's not going to elevate Gennady Golovkin, and he needs to elevate right now. So that DeGale fight, they need to make that fight 50-50 split on the money. Go to his weight. If you could drain him down, that'd be great. But you know what? Fight him at the full 168, and you'll win. Gennady Golovkin beats DeGale, straight up. I'm calling it now. He beats DeGale. It's going to be a good fight for the first 9 rounds, 7-8 rounds. But in the second half of the fight, Gennady Golovkin lays his ass out. But we'll cross that bridge when we cross that bridge. Also, there's talk about having a super fight with Bernard Hopkins. He needs to jump on that as well. Give Hopkins Let him be the A side. Whatever needs to be done. If you could get Hopkins in the ring, you need to take that fight. So that should be Gennady Golovkin's strategy. Just fight your mandatories, keep your belts at 160, and just go to 168 for a super fight every chance you get. He should fight Bute as well. Bute, DeGale, to get these guys in the ring if possible. He could beat these guys. He could beat them badly. He already knocked out Bute in amateurs, so it's, he should do this. He should have these big super fights at 168 to stay relevant while he's breaking records at middleweight. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, and subscribe. Peace.